Hi everyone, my name is Sarah, and welcome to this strength and mobility focused yoga flow for aerialists. Let's get started by sitting on our mats. For this, you don't actually need any equipment, but you could always add ankle weights or use weights if you want to make it more challenging. Let's start by sitting up nice and tall, taking a nice inhale, letting the chin slowly drop to the chest on the exhale. Rolling gently the ear to one shoulder. We'll just move from side to side. Just moving with the breath. Inhaling to the side. Exhaling to drop the chin down. And then next time our chin comes down, we'll let the shoulders round, pulling the belly button to spine. Exhaling every last bit of air. Inhaling to pull the heart forward gently with the fingertips by the knees. Look up. Exhale, curling forward, letting the shoulder blades spread wide apart. A couple more at your own pace of breath. And then rolling forward to all fours, we'll come to cat-cow, stacking the knees under the hips, hands under the shoulders. Continuing this motion, inhaling to spread the collarbones wide, exhaling to push the floor away, tucking the tailbone, inhaling, look up, and exhaling, belly button to spine. And starting to carve a nice slow circle with the spine, just moving in any way that feels really good to your body, letting the neck and head follow if that feels great. And after a couple, reversing directions with that flow. Keeping our fingers spread wide on the mat, we'll start to push gently through the pads of the fingers as we circle the shoulders out and over the hands. Just playing with shifting a little bit of weight into the hands before we get going. Some more strength stuff. Tucking the toes, we'll sit on our heels, stretching out our feet as we roll out the wrists, pinkies together, slowly pulling something towards you, rolling the wrists kind of glued together, getting some nice slow movement through those wrist joints in either direction. So opening one finger at a time, rolling through. If your toes are starting to hurt, you can always come back down to sitting on your heels normally, or you can keep stretching them. And then bringing the arms up overhead, we'll grab one elbow, gently pulling to the side, trying to keep that rib cage fairly closed. And coming back through open arms, inhale, look up. Exhale, other side. Resting the toes now. Mine started to kind of scream a little bit at me. And circling the chest open, take a deep inhale, and we'll circle the arms around. Tuck the toes, pushing back to downward dog, pedaling up those feet for a moment, taking a couple little pauses, pushing the tops of your toes into the floor. And then taking a little bit wider stance with the toes slightly turned out, we'll shift back all the way to a squat and kind of spring forward slowly to a plank. Shift back to a squat, shift forward to a plank. Keep those fingers spread wide on the floor, still pushing the finger pads into the ground. Do about 5 or 6 of these. Inhaling as you bend the knees, exhaling to shift forward to your plank. Pausing in plank, we're going to hold for a nice 10 to 15 seconds here, really focusing on pulling length all the way from your heels up through your spine, out through the crown of your head, pushing through all the fingertips making contact with the floor, drawing in the low belly. The rib cage is knitted together. And then dropping the knees finally, we'll walk the hands out, coming to a happy puppy pose. Your choice, you can lay your forehead on the mat or your chin if you want a little bit more extra stretch. And while you're here, keep drawing in the low belly, trying to find more of a stretch in your thoracic or upper spine. Slowly pushing yourself back to child's pose. Let's walk the hands all the way to the left. Sinking down through the right sit bones as you reach out through those right fingertips to get a nice side stretch. Slowly walking the hands through the middle, over to the right side, sink down through the left sit bone as you reach out through the left fingertips. Walking back through the middle, tuck the toes again. We're going to take some hops, trying to stack the hips as high over the shoulders as we can, not worrying so much about getting up into a handstand, but just kind of starting to work our core a little bit and keep working our arms and shoulders. So each time, try to land as lightly as you can. We'll do about anywhere between 6 to 10 of them. It's totally up to you how many you want to do. Inhale and then exhale to hop. Inhale, exhale to hop. And when you're done, take a little pause, kind of walking out your downward dog back and forth a couple times like we do in the studio or bear walk. Just kind of going back and forth a little. And then we'll walk the feet all the way up to the hands, pausing for a moment, bending into the knees, shaking it out. You can walk all the way onto the palms, tucking the toes kind of up to the wrist crease, massaging around the meaty part of your hands here. And then we'll inhale, sliding the hands out, putting the hands on the waist, and slide ourselves all the way up to a stand, starting to circle out the hips. Taking a nice wide stance now. We'll focus on the rib cage, pushing the rib cage forward to the side, to the back, to the side, and then turning that into a slow circle. As we multitask, we'll come to a nice wide kind of lunge stance here. And then other direction, going back, side, front, side, in a nice slow circle. And then sinking a little bit lower, trying to track the knees right over the ankles here. We'll dip the right shoulder in, look over the left. And slowly going from side to side. Take a few moments here, just shifting from side to side. And then straightening the legs, we'll come forward, left hand in the center, right arm up, circling out that wrist, in either direction. And then if it feels okay, you'll reach behind your low back, maybe grabbing hold of the left inner thigh, and bend into this. Other arm maybe grabbing the right shin, or near the foot, or the actual foot. And just giving a gentle pull to get a nice twist going. Keep breathing. Slowly slide the right arm back overhead, planting that one. We'll slide the left hand up, circling it out in either direction. And then if you did it on the other side, we'll wrap that left arm below the low back over Maybe to grab somewhere on the inner right thigh, bending into that right elbow. Give yourself a nice twist. Letting the neck and head relax. And taking nice, deep, slow breaths. Slowly bringing the arm back up. We'll come back to both hands wide and gently start to bend into one knee and then the other. And then kind of starting to exaggerate it a little bit more. Kind of letting the spine undulate, following the pathway of the hips. Moving in any way that feels good, really, here. Maybe even closing your eyes for a few moments, just to really tune in with your own body. And then pausing to take a few static breaths here, really letting the heart sink down towards the earth. Letting the head and neck relax. And then we'll slowly drop the knees back down. We're going to start some back body work for a moment here. So, keeping the knees right under the hips, I'm going to shift the right arm out overhead and the left leg behind. To make this some good work for our core, we're going to draw in the low belly. Try to keep the hips square, so try to avoid lifting this leg too much out to the side. Really try to find your glutes lifting from the back of your leg. And we'll hold here for 3 full breaths. Really focusing on drawing in the low belly, extending length all the way through your right fingertips, out through your left toes. And we're going to do 10 pulses up towards the ceiling. Really trying to keep the low belly drawn in. Sliding out a little bit. 10 pulses on this diagonal. And then planting that right hand, we're going to flex the left foot out to the side, taking 10 lifts here. Again, trying to keep the hips pretty square. Find yourself leaning off to the side like I was, just kind of check yourself. Ooh, after 10 plants, that leg and foot bending into that knee, we're going to shift over to a little side lunge here. Flexing these toes up right up towards the ceiling. And take a moment here, just sliding the hands forward, sinking in for a full breath. And we're going to slide the left hand in front of the left shin. So your shoulder's kind of in front of that shin. Right arm comes up. Circling out the wrist again. And then if you want to go for the full bind, you can take that right hand behind the low back, left hand to the outer edge of your left hip. Maybe find fingertips or wrists. And keep peeking up over your right shoulder, peeling that shoulder open. Even as you flex that right foot a little harder. And then rolling that back down, we'll take a little seat. Come back up. Back up about 3-4 times. And then planting the hands, we'll come back through the center for one full breath here. And sink the knees down, going over to our other side. So left hand out, right hand behind, drawing in that low belly, really pulling length all the way out through the left fingertips, down through the right toes, rib cage knitted together. Neck is long, drawing length through the crown of the head. Keep lifting from the back of that right leg, keeping the hips square, and breathing. 10 lifts here now, really trying to keep the low belly drawn in. And then sliding it to a diagonal. 10 lifts here. And then planting that left hand, flexing the right foot out to the side. 10 lifts here. The flexed foot. Resting that right leg, we'll bend into that knee, rolling over the left knee and ankle to come to a nice straight leg on our side. Lunge here, tiptoe walking, or tip finger walking, I guess, the fingers forward. Sinking in here for a breath. Before sliding the right hand and shoulder in front of the right shin, left arm up, circle out that wrist, shifting the gaze up as well towards that hand. And then we're going to go for that bind on the other side if that felt good. Keep opening the left shoulder towards the ceiling. You're not closing off in that side. And then we'll slowly release that. Hands out in front for balance if you want, and we'll sit down, come back up 3 times or 4 times, depending on how many you did on the other side. Cool. Now either using your hands as support, depending on how your knees feel about this. We're going to go from side to side a couple times, trying to stay pretty low. You can always keep walking your hands if you're feeling any strain in your joints. Keep it going, staying nice and low. And then next time we come up, we're going to stay up, sinking nice and low here, keeping the knees tracking over the ankles. We're going to do 10 heel lifts, nice and slow, keeping the hips nice and low, the posture upright, energy drawing out through the fingertips. Last one, sink the hands down, straighten the legs, shake it out for a moment, and then we'll hop the feet together, bend into the knees, and we're going to sit all the way down, rolling to our backs. Take a moment here, just kind of rocking and rolling on your back for a moment. And then next time we come back, we'll find plow, letting the feet relax, or find resting point overhead. And then next time we roll up, we're going to try to find our balance in a bit of a V-sit. So choose your own challenge. You can come up to this position every time. We're going to do it 20 times, or if you want to come to straight legs, straight arms in a full V-sit, that's up to you. So we'll rock back and up 20 times. Trying to pause at the top every time. Find a nice moment of balance. I'm at 10, I think. Going for 20. Don't forget to breathe. And 20. We're going to pause, hold for 10 seconds. Arms up or over, out to the side is fine. And then slow lower halfway, so in boat pose. Arms lifted, shoulder blades off the ground. Toes pointed, squeeze the legs together, and then relax. Bringing the legs up, or feet up a little bit wider than the hips. We'll kind of slide one knee diagonally across, the other one out to the side, and just kind of windshield wiper the knees from side to side after that. Cool, we're going to do some of the traditional tuck pike straddles next. So We'll come back down to our backs. It's going to be legs outstretched. Come up to a tuck. Come up to a pike. Come up to a straddle. We'll do that 10 times. Tuck, pike, straddle. Tuck, pike, straddle. That was 3, I think. 6. I think almost 10. I'm losing track. And let's let the legs rest. Coming forward. If you are still working on getting your low back neutral in a straddle so that you're avoiding that nice curve that happens when you have really tight hamstrings, you can always sit on top of a block or a cushion or a hoodie that's rolled up evenly. Just go ahead and stick it under your sit bones if you need it. Otherwise, come to a straddle for a moment. Just kind of warming it up. Swing from side to side for a moment, keeping the toes flexed up towards the ceiling. Here we go. And then let's take a full few breaths here. Play around with alternating pointing and flexing one foot if you want. And then we're going to walk back up to seated. Hands on the hips. We're going to take little gentle rocks forward. Trying to come up with a flat back. Knees and toes up towards the ceiling. If this is fairly easy for you, you can always bring your hands out to the side, or go farther down, or bring the hands overhead. My hips are feeling pretty sore today, so I'm going to stay here. Hands on my hips. Cool, and then one of my favorites, kind of call it the seaweeding, kind of pick up one sit bone, and then the other, turn so you can see a little bit better, pick up one sit bone, then the other, kind of rocking and rolling from side to side, and letting the head and neck follow. And you can even play around with alternating, flexing and pointing one foot as well. Whew. Sitting up nice and tall. We'll slide one arm under and one arm over, turning to shift our gaze towards the ceiling. It's fairly easy for you to reach your foot. Make sure that both sit bones are still very planted on the ground. Oftentimes it's easy to kind of get the goal of reaching for the foot and then forget about your sit bones. So wherever you are with both sit bones firmly planted on the ground, work from there. And walking our hands through the middle space, over to the other side, left arm under, right arm up and over. Again, just focusing on, instead of reaching for the toe, see how anchored you can make both sit bones on the earth there. Shifting the gaze overhead. And then walking forward one last time. Or probably not last time. We'll do some more. Just sitting back up. Let's close our straddle just a tad. We're going to do some lifts here. First one we'll do is little circles with the toes going out. So start with our right leg. One hand on either side of that leg. Making sure you're sitting up nice and tall. Trying to pull the belly button forward this whole time. We'll do 10 out, 10 in on each leg. And give it a little shake. And other leg when you're ready. 10 out, 10 in. Cool. Giving them both a shake. Maybe a little mini seaweed moment. And then we're going to try both legs. Well, your choice. I'm going to do 5 out and 5 in. See how that goes. Maybe do a second set, but you could also do 10 and 10 if you want to push yourself a little harder. Sitting up nice and tall with the hands maybe in front. Inhale. And then exhale, 10 out, 10 in. I think I miscounted the first one and started to do 10. Well, let's try a second set of whichever we did. 5 and 5 or 10 and 10. Out and in. Yes. Whew. Trying to feel those quads a little bit. Shake it out. Do a little massage. And we're going to do something similar with our legs together. Choose your own adventure of challenge again. If your hands are over your knees, it's a little easier. Closer your hands go towards your feet in this pike position, the harder it is. So we're going to just do straight lifts of the legs, really extending through the toes with pointed toes, nice line of energy. Just try to avoid touching the floor at all. So whenever you're ready, we'll do 10 and then a second set of 10. And go. And rest if you need to, rounding forward, massage out the toes, circle out the ankles, and then we'll do it again. 10 more. Right on. Sitting up nice and tall for a moment. Let's flex our feet so much that they maybe hover off the ground. This is a nice place to put the blanket or block under your sit bones if you feel like you can't avoid this rounded low back. So totally an option here if you need to sit on something. Otherwise we'll flex really hard with those feet reaching up through the fingertips, and we're going to just pause here for about 10 seconds. Making it really active by pulling your belly button towards your feet, reaching the fingertips up towards the sky, finding that little space underneath the heels like you could slide paper or maybe even a book if you have a really strong flex under those heels, and breathing. And then we're going to point and round the spine down, just taking a full couple of breaths here. Trying to get comfortable, maybe even gently pushing the toes towards the floor, stretching out the tops of the feet in a point. And when you're ready, we'll slide it on up. We're going to slide the left leg behind us, right leg will stay in a pigeon here. Just setting up for a moment, really flex that front foot on the floor, pushing it down into the floor, and kind of roll around. Experiment with the angle of your shin to your knee so that you can get both hips pretty square down towards the floor. And once you find that, you can always put blocks on the other side if you're up here, your hips are a little tighter, you need to keep your balance. Wherever you are, we're going to slowly float our arms up overhead, taking a nice reach. Fingertips. From here, we're going to try this active king pigeon. So flexing the back foot, trying to keep it in line with your thigh bone. Tendency for me is for the shin to want to go in. We're trying to keep pushing it out towards the wall behind me so that you can really feel your glutes working here too. I'm not worrying about so much about how far you get into this, just trying to keep it real active. Pushing that flexed foot into the ground, pulling that back flexed foot in towards you as you push it out to the side. And reaching the fingertips up, maybe starting to shift back a little bit more. Whew. And then coming down. So nice, just relaxing. Few breaths in pigeon here. Using each exhale as a vehicle to let you sink in a little bit lower and deeper into the floor. And walking the hands back up. And try a different active thing for our back body and for our hips. So keeping that flexed foot still pushed into the floor. Your choice, it's a little less weight to keep your hands low. As we dive straight forward and back up, or hands out to the side is also a nice option. The hardest challenge would be to bring your hands overhead. Going back up, and we'll just do 8 of these on either side. For the other side, we'll get there when we go through our little pigeon series first. And then relaxing in once more. To take this a little deeper, you can slide the left hand, or opposite hand as your front of pigeon leg. Slide it through the opening towards your knee, coming to kind of the outer shoulder. The right arm can come up, and you can bend the back knee reaching for that foot, or just bend it up if you can't reach. And we'll take a full 3 or so breaths here, feeling maybe this more intense stretch for the hips, shoulders, for the quads, all sorts of stuff. So walking the hands back up. Let's swing this leg all the way around. Coming back to our straddle for one brief moment before we do the other side. Just seeing how our hips are feeling in between, maybe touching down for a full few breaths. And then pushing our way back up. We'll go over to the left leg now. So left leg is bent, right leg is behind us. Setting it up nice with a flexed foot in the front. And then just kind of wiggling around until you can find your square hips. Trying to avoid this one being up too high. So again, if you need blocks, oftentimes this can really help get your hips square. If you need to have a bit of a lift under your hip, that's totally legit. Wherever that is for you, keep that front foot flexed, pushing into the ground. And then we're going to start to also flex that back leg, pulling it in, circling the arms up, starting to arch back. Trying to keep the shin fairly in line with the thigh bone. For me, it's still a work in progress, so it has a tendency to go in. And that's just, my glutes are getting used to it. And diving down. Relax down for a few breaths here. Allowing each exhale to sink you into the earth a little farther. Letting go of any tension in your hips, even your face. Relaxing the space between your eyebrows. Allowing a slight smile to come to your lips. Walking our way back up for the second active pigeon exercise. Flex that foot again, setting up this little hip alignment with square hips. And we'll do 8 dives down. Again, harder versions are optional, like wherever is good work for you today. Or you could always keep your hands on hips and just dip down a little lower too. That's totally fine. Sometimes one side is different than the other also. So just be mindful. Your knee, if you're feeling any strain in your knee, make sure you're really flexing through this front foot, pushing it down. And then pausing again in our kind of more intense stretch if you want. The right hand this time will slide through, coming to the outer shoulder. And if it felt good on the other side, take your left hand, bend the right knee, and pull it in. Nice deep breaths here, and relax. When you're ready, you can let that foot go, pushing back into the floor, back through our straddle. One last time. And while we're here, maybe kind of shifting from side to side before waving ourselves forward. One thing I like to do is these shoulder circles, which you're also welcome to do from like a all fours position if your hips are a little too tight for this right now. Totally fine. Cool. Sliding the legs together, shake them out. Kind of alternating a lot from strength and flexibility things in this routine. So the next thing we're going to do is a little bit more core work. So we're going to go to a side plank. So in this side plank we'll be on our forearm. So the elbow will be stacked right underneath the shoulder, pushing through all 5 fingers in the palm of that hand. You can modify this by putting your top leg kind of in front or in back, whichever feels more comfortable. And doing the same thing, we're going to drop the hip down and back up 15 times. Cool, last one, hold for a few breaths. And then we'll set that hip down. Before we go to the other side, kind of just pull your feet in, sitting up tall, kind of like a little bit of a mermaid sit. And stretch overhead just to kind of stretch out a little bit what you just worked. And then we'll shift the hips over to the other side to get our second side. Again, spreading wide through all 5 fingers, sitting the elbow right underneath the shoulder, modifying if you need. Otherwise, stacking the feet for 15 lifts. Oh, and hand on your hip, I think is what I did on the other side. Cool, keeping yourself on that side. We'll mermaid stretch on the other side. Coming back to all fours and tucking the toes. Come to downward dog for just a moment here. Before stepping the left leg forward. Coming to a lunge, hands on the hips first. Keep drawing in that low belly. And we'll bring arms overhead for warrior 1. We're reaching through the fingertips, sinking low as we draw that belly button in. We'll open to warrior 2, pulling length through the fingertips, along that nice line of the collarbone out through the other fingertips. And then planting the hands on either side of that foot. We'll drop the back knee, straighten and flex. Bending in a couple times. And then rounding forward with a pointed toe this time. Just taking a few breaths here. Stretching out those hamstrings. And then coming forward again. Here's an opportunity to work on your splits if you want to. If you usually use blocks on either side of you, you can have them. Books also work if you don't have yoga blocks at home. Trying to keep the hips fairly square wherever that is for you today. And taking some nice long breaths here. kind of look from side to side too if your neck is tightening up. Mine is. And then when you're ready, we'll shift the legs back together. We're going to take 10 lifts before we get to our other side. This is also another one you can do with blocks on either side and lift. For me, I'll do it without, just since I said this would be a no equipment workout. Planting the hands with the fingertips spread wide. We'll do 10 lifts, just trying to get the hips up as high as we can. Last one, hold. And then setting it down, we'll cross the ankles. We're going to try to hop slide our way through a plank back to downward dog. Cool. Right leg steps forward. Pausing here in a lunge, setting up our warrior one. Sinking the hips low as you pull the fingertips up. Keep drawing in that low belly. And then when you're ready, we'll open to warrior two, pulling length from fingertip out through the other fingertips. Belly button is still drawn out in even as you push the feet into the floor a little bit harder. And circling the hands around this front foot, we'll set the back knee down. Straighten that leg, flexing the toes, bending in a couple times. And then next time we come back, we'll point those toes, rounding down. Beautiful. Couple breaths here. And when you're ready, sliding that foot forward, working on our square split, so hips square to the front if possible. And again, you can roll the head and neck from side to side if that feels good. And then kind of shifting the hips to the side, we'll roll our leg out, back to the front, circling out ankles. Only a couple more things for this routine. A couple options of different back bends. If you have a wall available, you do a forearm stand with a back bend. I really like having something between my hands, so finding a book that's about the width of your, kind of like inside of the shoulder joint to the inside of the shoulder joint is great. That will keep your forearms parallel to each other at a good distance. Putting that down, elbows down. First start in dolphin, if you're still working on shoulder stands and working on the strength and flexibility in the shoulders for this parallel forearm variation. So just work from dolphin, which is kind of like downward dog, but with the elbows down instead of the hands. And if this feels okay, you can keep your head off the floor. Then we're going to kick up to our wall. Pause here, and then when you're ready, keeping one foot on the floor, or on the wall rather, start working on opening, playing around with a bit of a back bend. You can try it a couple times. If you ever feel like your low back is getting extra stretch, you can come back to a child's pose for a few breaths. This is also a good time to practice a handstand against the wall too. Or on the floor if you have a handstand without the wall. If you want to hit the video and keep working on your inversions for a while, you can. we'll just do one more back bend on the floor and be done with this practice. Setting up the feet the width of the hips. We'll tuck the fingers under the shoulders, trying to keep the elbows square with the shoulders. Shift the hips up. Push into the floor with the palms to shift the top of your head down. If that went well, then push up to your full wheel or bridge. And we'll take 10 long breaths here. When you're done, tucking the chin to your chest, slowly peeling off the palms, taking a little side-to-side windshield wiper with the knees, pausing in a nice twist for a few breaths on either side. And then when you're ready, you can lay all the way on your back. Even though this wasn't a traditional yoga class, I still like to do Shavasana, so just let the nervous system reset and take a moment of relaxation after you worked hard. So just setting up your limbs as comfortable as possible, tucking the shoulder blades under the back. Any last movements that your body is calling for, now is a good time before sinking in. And I'll just let the video play for about 2 minutes, but do take a longer Shavasana. When you're ready, start bringing a little movement back into your body by wiggling the fingers or the toes. Letting each breath be a nice inhalation of gratitude for every cell in your body. And eventually stretching the arms overhead, luxuriously and slowly rolling to one side. I'm taking your time to sit all the way up. Namaste. Thanks for practicing with me today.